Manyu. Manyur Indro, Manyur Devaha, Manyur Hota Arunajata Vedaha, Manyum Visha Ilate Manushir Yaha.
Yaha.
Interesting, that doesn't fit. Manyum Visha Ilate Ma.
Yaha. Yaha.
Manushir Yaha.
There's Visarga.
Yeah. Can see. Pahi. Yeah, I was meaning the rhythm is very kind of one short syllable shorter. Manjum Vishayavati Manushir Yah. And not Yah.
Yah. Yah.
Pahi no Manyo Tapasa Sajosha. Okay, it's a shorter both on one syllable. Manjum Vishayavati Manushir Yah. This Drishtuk. Manjur Indro Manjur Evasa Eva. Yes, it's a Trishput Manjur Hota Varuna Jata Vedach Manjur Vishayavati Manushiriyach Pahino Manjur Tapasa Sajosha.
Yeah, that sounds better, huh?
Yeah, 11 syllables.
So, yeah.
Manyu was Indra. Ye, the god, Manyu was. Evasa, Asa was. Eva, Manyu, Deva, the god. Manyu was Hotar, the one who invokes the gods. Varuna, Jata Vedas, Agni. The tribes of human lineage worship Manyu. Manyu Visha Ilate Manushi Yaha. And those who are Manushi, or humans, they worship him. Pahima, protect us, O Manyu. Apatha Sajata. By your apas. According to by further. This is Sajosha agreeing. And those who are agreeing, and this is, wait a minute, I will check with the dictionary whether it is such form Sajoshas, and it could be singular. Yeah, there is Sajoshas. So it is singular. So uniting or accordant with thy energy, or by thy energy agreeing, you, O Manyu, protect us. And this protect is pahi from root pa, to fill us with your presence and protect us from within.
Could you look at the word that Griffith translates as worship, Manyu, down on the second line? Is that tapasa?
No, this is worship is ilate. Vishach, they adore him, or literally seek with adoration. They seek the people, those who entered this manifestation, Vishaha, seek Manyu with adoration here. And it is interesting, Vishaha Manushi. It is specified that the tribes or the creatures who came here should be Manushi, of the humankind. They worship him, or seeking the adoration. Root il, Agni is the same root. Yeah? I adore Agni. They adore. We can translate.
So what is it that's being adored then? It's certainly not anything that comes from your mouth forward. It's got to be something else in consciousness that is adored, because everybody hates anger. Everybody hates it, and they're scared of it, and they want it to go away, and they want it to, they're afraid of it. So I don't. So something is being worshipped, which is not the thing that all beings run from.
Right. I don't think they realize, they understand Manyu as the anger to be hated, yes?
As what?
As anger. They see it as an energy which is, truly speaking, um, of that manifesting or rajasic kind, which can, make a difference in the world. And
Can you
and
still hear me?
yes, and there is interesting thing about this idea of only strongest would really subscribe to this force. Yes? The strong spirits.
Or the weakest, because I've seen people who are internally extremely weak, but they have a way of being full of anger and rage, and everybody else kind of tiptoes around them to keep them from exploding, and they command huge, they command the environment with their rage. And people allow that to happen because they'll do anything to keep it from exploding. Anything. And I've seen very, very weak human beings bullying much stronger people because they know how to use this energy, this rage.
Actually, that situation I am in also.
Oh, is that your situation? Yeah, I was in it as well for 20 years with a rageaholic and his mother, who was also a rageaholic, and much weaker people than me. And
Rageaholic is such a word.
well, because it's intoxicating for the person who's doing it, it's intoxicating. They feel powerful, they feel much stronger than they really are, and they see that they're able to control a lot in their environment, which is uncontrollable otherwise.
Interesting thought. Never thought this. I thought always that when a person is in rage, it's like a disease, a sickness, and you have to really kind of stop it because it can damage the person, first of all, not me, but the person.
It does. It damages the environment
Mm. And
for
in that
sure.
sense, you feel like responsible because you can avoid that damage, so to say, by adjusting something. So I adjusted always to avoid that rage, and I don't want to see the person going down. Mm. It would not hurt me. I was not afraid of because of me, of myself, but because of this damage which person can do to himself or herself.
That may be because certainly you have some kind of superior understanding or knowledge, but maybe because you're a man, and it's men tend not to be, they're every man has a certain kind of warrior protectiveness, a Raja consciousness in them where they want to protect everything and everyone.
Also, you triggered in me some memory when I was in the position when I was in rage. Yeah? There was a request from the other side. All the time there was a calling for this rage. When I was angry with a person as a teacher, I was a very kind of teacher of Sanskrit, with the whip and so on. I was very critical and very merciless and so on. And I remember there were a few students, especially um, those who were enjoying it in subtle way. They were always creating a situation in which this rage should reappear. And I hated that. I hated myself for that because I was not happy with this. It was always a kind of self-destruction, also self-destructive moment. And every time I was hating this person more and more for that it was caused to me, this situation. And this happened to me with my first marriage. Interestingly enough, I was the cause of that rage in my life. And she, at the end, or before I left, she told me, "What are you doing to me?" And that was such a surprise for me. Like, I am doing something. I'm just kind and doing everything, and it was causing more and more rage. Can you imagine?
In you.
In her, I was not. And
You know, but I think a lot of people, they, just because of their various upbringings, experience when somebody is angry that they love them, that proves that there's love there, because it's kind of a passion. It's like a passion.
you're not indifferent, yeah, so to say. No.
Yeah, that's what bugged her the most about you, is that she was interpreting your witnessing as indifference.
Right. But no. She knew about everything, spirituality and everything. It was something very vital. In the vital exchange, something cracked, And I was just following everything she said and was kind of looking seriously to every her suggestion, every her criticism. And it was causing more and more criticism, and more vision was coming up, as if this was the way to create even worse. So I've been in both situations. I was poisoned by this rage, and I saw others being poisoned, and how it is destructive. And in that sense, when now I'm thinking always in this way, when I see somebody going into this state, there are two ways out. Either I become detached, and then the person will destroy himself by this rage, which is very possible, and I will just, witness the thing and become very normal and very supportive. But this energy will be beaming more and more and more and more and more. Or I will take it onto myself, partially, as I usually do, and admit my guilt, and this rage will go. You see, it's a strange thing. So
Well,
I
that's fine as long as you don't get a hole in your stomach from it.
you get hits, real hits, very painful, and your ego and your vital ego tells you that it was very wrong to do, and you hate yourself and situation and the person who did to you. It's very painful. You have to take that pain onto yourself, and then it goes down. I did this many times. I'm not sure whether it is correct. Maybe it would be easier for me that the person would destroy himself or herself, and I will be free from it totally.
Well, maybe Manyu Tapaha will tell us, because
Maybe.
maybe we'll find out what's the right way, because I think it's got to be, it's an incredible power and incredible energy, but there's got to be some way a right way to manage it. And I mean, my ex-husband was a neurologist, and he also a psychiatrist, and I've never met a more angry person in my life. I've never met anybody close to me anyway. And there's all kinds of, they have people, beating up with a bat on a phone book or something like that. Or, you're screaming out at nature, or they have you doing all kinds of things to dissipate this power. But they're just, if it's common to all men, which is what Manyu Tapaha admits, it's common to all men. And here it's worthy of worship, of ilate, and it's got something powerful in it, but there has to be a right understanding, or because it's common to all men. It's not something that you can think, oh, I'm going to make it go away. It's never going to go away. It's common.
Yeah, we are trying to figure out what it is really.
Yes,
And
what it really is, and why the creator, or why it's part of the structure of I mean, if it's common to all men, then it must be very, very close to being absolute, to being, you know, it must be something very, very precious and very close to that which is unbounded and infinite. Because it's common to all men. It said that.
Right. There is something what new thoughts I get from this, because I just remembered Gita, where he explains what karma is, and he says
But
that,
he's connecting it to Krota, not to Manyu, and that's it's different there.
right, but nevertheless, what is interesting, he says that the Rajoguna, yes,
Right.
he says that Raja's guna is the cause of all these movements.
Right.
We can say that Manyu is also connected to Raja's guna. We are sure that it is the same force, yeah. But that means for Krishna, for the Vishnu's view, yeah, Vishnu's view is a bit different than Shiva's view. It's kind of interesting. And in that sense, Vishnu is seeing this movement of rajas in nature as producing all kinds of sins and destructions. In his view of sustaining the sattvic equilibrium, yes, spiritual equilibrium in nature, which will eventually grow and
So when you say Vishnu, you're talking about Krishna.
yeah, in this sense I speak about Krishna as Vishnu, yeah.
Okay.
Though he himself caused such a destruction as,
Yeah. So now bring that up.
but without money, interestingly enough, yeah, with very kind, agreeing with everyone, agreeing with everyone, but caused to this, led to this huge destruction. But this Manyu is something of Shiva's energy, I think. Yeah? It is this Rudra Bhava, which we don't have Vishnu Bhava as an anger. We would not find the equivalent of Vishnu Bhava to be an anger. But he only Rudra's case. And I remember Ashwatthama getting this rage and destroying all the armies with Vishnu's help, or with Shiva's help.
Who is it? Ashwatthama? Ashwatthama?
Yes. And he was praying to Shiva to help him. Shiva came into him and he got this rage. And with this rage, it was such a great power that nobody could resist him. And he could smite everyone and everything.
Is that in the Upanishads?
No, it is Mahabharata. Yeah.
Mahabharata, Ashwatthama.
Ashwatthama was in the Kauravas
Kaurava.
army. So, and he destroyed all the Pandavas, all their families, and all their children, and everybody, and all the camps, everybody. Only 5 Pandavas were left alive. So they didn't have offspring afterwards. He was so fierce and
Vindictive, really.
yeah, but there was this rage, yeah, which is going beyond any reasoning, beyond any kind of equilibrium. I remember once I had in my life this rage, one time, which worked immensely and beautifully, which was really constructive for me. Once we were going through the flying from Germany in 1996, flying from Germany to India, and we brought with ourselves camera. And that time they were not allowing cameras, and they were always demanding a lot of money to pay for this. Every camera, small camera, video camera. So with and my friend was there, and I said, we don't have anything. And I went through the green line, and she couldn't say that she doesn't have anything. She was immediately read, and she was caught and brought into this to check what she has. And she already took camera out. They already wrote the number of the camera, took her passport. I see all that already from another side. I went from outside. I come there angry like anything, angry really, take that passport from the officer, take camera, put into the bag, close, so we have to go. And we go
Wow.
straight to the exit. And we sit into the taxi, and then I got this fear. Now it will come. Then run and we drive. Nothing
Wow.
happened. Nothing
It
happened.
is very powerful. It is an incredibly powerful energy. And really, when you say vital, it's got so much life in it. You know, it's got so much vitality in it, and it makes other people afraid. If particularly if it's very pure, if this, you know, thing that comes up is very, very pure, which it isn't usually, but boy, it's unstoppable, really.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, that was this most probably Manyu, which worked.
So is that maybe that's the gauge of it? If it's Manyu and it works, then we know that it's really Manyu. And if it's something that doesn't work and it only creates a big huff, then we think, well, that's Rajas and then just Rota.
And it felt so righteous. It felt so good, you know. It didn't feel bad what I did. It felt very
But you felt
true.
bad afterwards, though, right?
No, I got afraid only when I looked into her eyes. There was such a fear that now we will be deported from here, and so we
Well,
broke.
so when there's a negative blowback
Mhm.
like that, I think that must be something else.
But it was some of the miracles in my life, you know. And this I would not never do this again, ever. You know, that time it was like an impulse, a clarity that it can be done. I do not know, a clarity with this anger together. Maybe that is.
And what do you think it means that Manyu is Indra?
Yeah, maybe that is intuition, that flash of intuition, you know, which Indra represents, this lightning, which shows us what things are and what can be done. That truth, element of the light of the truth, which is very active and destructive for the darkness also. Removes the darkness. Could be, and now with this description, it could be exactly that, but you have a kind of a flash of intuition that you can dare to do this. How would you dare otherwise to do this? To go to the booth where already everything is written down and we have to pay some 25,000 rupees, which we don't have. And so, and you do it all in 1 second and everything is finished by physical force. You are not fighting, you're just taking things.
Well, look at all the, Indra, Varuna,
Jatavedas,
Jatavedas is
Agni.
Agni. So all the hotheads, all the terrible gods are all using this power of Manyu. They didn't say Mitra, and they didn't say, you know, Saraswati or anything like that. I mean, it's Indra, Varuna, and Agni.
Yeah, these are fierce gods. Varuna is also representing this purity of the divine being and vastness of the divine being. And in that sense, of course, he has to be there somehow for Manyu to work. If it is only impure force, you know, then it is not Manyu, it is some kind of Krodha. But if it is based on the perception of the divine purity, then it's like Rudra Bhava, something like this. Rudra Bhava is of that force, of that quality. And Jata Vedas, of course, pure Agni.
Jatavedas is the Rajas, really.
Right.
Would you say?
But the force charged with knowledge, Vedas, knowing Jata, those who are born, knowing all those inherent characteristics of every being born here, so to say, and acting accordingly. So most probably this is a good description of Manyu, Indra, Varuna, and Jataka.
Yeah, probably so. Probably so. So it's almost as if Manyu Tapaha is telling us what are the conditions where Manyu prevails, and as distinct from what might be Rajas and Krodha. That it's got that instant that evolutionary movement of the intuition. It's got the purity of divine being, and it's got the fire of Veda. And those are the characteristics of Manyu itself, as opposed to Krodha.
Right. It's not just Rajas, which is smoke of the fire. There is a purity of Varuna and support of Indra, which is it becomes totally different then, because Indra brings this transcendental, uninvolved light of the sun, and that is a fresh look. So,
Indra brings transcendental
light of the sun. He's Vajra, he's thunder, he's lightning. He is in substance is that light of the sun, uninvolved sun. So transcendental being. There are two suns. One is involved, another is uninvolved. Fresh look. The look we never had here in this world. So that freshness comes with Manyu. So it's not that heavy krodha, yes, but it has an unexpected, fresh, intuitive perspective, which krodha may not have.
Why does it say Manyo Tapasa?
Tapasasa Josha, agreeing with his energy or by the energy of tapas.
Be what? Green?
Agreeing, literally, according.
Agree. Sajos.
Yeah, happily agreeing with the energy, as if energy is not his. Yeah? And then he adds thy fervor. Fervor, he means tapas. Yeah? With thy fervor, tapasa, accordance, josha.
Well, I would say, yeah, tapas is way more than fervor, wouldn't you?
Yeah, but he wants to put him into the perspective of anger, in his translation. But there is, tapas is much more, of course. It is that heat which carries everything in this universe. And sajosha is also not a small word. It's not just agreeing. It's from root jush, to be happy. So to say, who is happy with the energy, excited with the energy, not just agreeing. Maybe there is some excitement in this movement of energy.
Well, certainly for the person or for the being that is expressing it, it's got a certain, a fierce kind of charge to it. It's enlivening. It's exciting, like you said. But for the ones that are on the reception side of it, it's quite terrifying.
You know what it could be? It could be this courage, only courage. Now I got some absolutely new idea. It's not an anger, it's a courage, which is, and that's why these descriptions are here. So being excited with the energy, this is something which comes and you become courageous. By the way, in my case, also in that what I took the camera and passport from the office and we went out, and with decisive movement, there was a lot of courage in every movement.
Yes.
There was no shaking of the hand or, kind of the eyes. There was no shame. There was clarity and decisiveness, courage, overwhelming. So most probably this is also one of the, I have to check even, maybe it's even in the dictionary. spirit, mood, high spirit, temper, zeal, passion. It's very close to courage, but not courage. Rage, fury, wrath, and anger, grief, sorrow, distress, affliction. Now it's coming close and then leaves. Courage is also high temper, high spirit.
Yeah, that seems much more like Rajas looking to me, spirit, ardor, zeal, passion. I think, I mean, they're related, obviously. All of these things are related to each other, but, and courage is, interesting. I mean, one of the highest expressions of kshatriya.
Right, right. And by the way, these are all three kings, except of course Agni. But they are Indra and Varuna are the kings. They are the Kshatriyas in the but Yatsenko is of course Agni
Or what? Jatavedas is what?
is Brahmana. I do not know why, but maybe it's later. Anyhow, it's a Brahmanic explanation later. But he should be also a warrior, Agni, yes, not a Brahmin.
Well, he's got Jatavedas is always active because he's the connector. He's the energy or the activity that connects the sacrificer to the sacrifice itself.
Manyu, if I translate Manyu without knowing what it could mean, just grammatically looking at this word, it could mean the one who is seeking mental expression and the seeker of the mind. This
Let me pitch out one other thing here, because is you connected to Yuj?
Yes, it is. There.
Is it also connected to like like Yati?
Yeah, it's from the family of Ya to move, but this is movement of uniting movement, yeah? Uniting with, moving and uniting with the mind, or moving and uniting mind, particular mind to something. Maybe.
But if it's like Yati, then it could be going beyond the mind. It could be like a sannyasi. Like,
Okay, you mean Yati from root Yam. Okay, I thought Yati as going from root Ya. Right, but they are all connected. Yam,
they're
Ya.
all connected, yeah.
And this movement is there definitely, and movement with the U, it gives this sense of you to unite, to come to, or to bring, or to, this machine which is wielding, how do you call it in English? Metal to metal?
Yeah, no, I use that all the time.
Yes, so that is kind of that thing, connecting mind, man, to something. So, seeking the mind. You suffix is often used in this sense, seeking something, seeking mental formation, seeking mental expression, concept, thought.
So Manyu is the energy of, is it maybe some kind of seeking to understand, seeking to connect, to be able, because what it said in the previous verse when you were talking about dasa is the dualizing, is that dualizing force. And whenever there's dualizing, there's dukkha. They're suffering from dualizing.
Right.
So it, and so maybe this Manyu is that force which is seeking to have the mind be able to connect the self with the non-self, with what is perceived to be non-self.
Could be very nice. It could be exactly that moment, and that is seeking.
But there's an urgency to it. It's because it's so powerful. There's a kind of a fierce urgency to it.
Right. It is a short, this what we call cut, shortcut to uh, the realization. Shortcut, and that's why it is this bolt, yeah, destructive bolt. It's like you put a nail or bolt into the concrete, and goes and holds, breaks through. Otherwise, so it is shortening the time. It is a shortcut to this realization. Otherwise, we can go a long way through evolutionary agreement and finding the solution and so on and so forth. But not to go that way, you can become angry and it is done, so to say. You become courageous, as I did in this office. I took camera into the bag and we were left. It was done very fast.
Very fast, yeah, very fast.
That's what you say, that it is
But
fast.
why is it the shortcut to realization? Because it's almost as if, I mean, it flares up with this Manyu and then it recedes after the damage has been done, or after the clearing has been accomplished, or after that mind is propelled into. How is it a shortcut to realization?
Shortcut because you are making, first of all, you energize everything. So all that energy which was to work for this realization spread in time, and through agreements, discussions, finding the solutions. Yes, it is kind of not considering them, putting them into one beam of light and doing it, and it's done. And because of that, all those other forces are not involved, and they are kind of feeling damage. But the thing is done. The thing is done by the concentration of energy into one being. That energy could be spread over time. Yeah, that's why I say shortcuts, because you can use that energy in a very harmonious way, and in 10 years to come to agreement that camera could be given back and so on. But truly speaking, you can put it into one moment, all that energy, and it will be done. I was telling this to my sister that she had a very difficult life. Also, she had one person who was always also, what do you say, rageaholic, and she lived with him, suffered a lot. And I told her once, can you imagine if I would take your life of your 10 years of this person and press into 5 minutes of intensity of everything you've been through? Can you imagine that energy which was there collected in 10 years to be lived in 5 minutes?
I've experienced that, actually.
And she said, I would flame out. I would burn, because there was so much energy. So this is the shortcut. The burning of the beam, instead of spreading it over time and finding the solution, it is just a kind of one bolt.
But it's so destructive. I mean, it is so destructive when that happens.
Yeah, destructive bolt, as it is said here. Yes, what can we do? It is destructive for the forces which want to come through agreement. But the work is done.
He breeds all conquering energy. Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, and sometimes it is even more merciful to do this way than to, the years of stagnation and trying to agree. It's sometimes it's better. It's like
I think the years of working through it, though, are much more peaceful. I mean, it certainly gives you more sama in your life. This destructive bolt is very destabilizing for both sides.
But it does work. It does its work, and it comes to the realization. So, and you save time. And sometimes this painful experience is better to have once. It's like a surgery, you know. It's better to go through surgery, and then to have a healthy life than to suffer the disease all your life. You know? We do not know what is better, truly speaking. Sometimes it is better to suffer and to see the consequences, but sometimes this kind of splash of energy or shortcut of energy to come to the result through all the impossibilities. And most probably that is also Manyu.
Yeah. I think this was pretty helpful seeing who, you know, that it didn't say Rudra, it said Indra, Varuna, and Jatavedas. So it's kind of some mixture of those three things is what the actual definition of Manyu is.
Yeah, it doesn't say Rudra, but most probably it will say somewhere again, Rudra. We will see it later. It could be that Rudra will reappear. It's possible.
Okay, we don't have much time, but let's move on.
Okay, this is already. Yeah. Abhihimanyo tavasach taviyan tapasayuja vijahi shatrum amitraha vritraha dasyuha cha vishwa vasuni abhara tuvamna. Abhihimanyo, come here, O Manyo, tavasach taviyan.
So that come here, Manyu, is that case where it's you know, demonstrative?
This is the imperative second person singularis from root E to go with the prefix abhi. Abhihi, come here, approach, O Manyo.
But I mean, that's pretty strong language, isn't it? You're kind of ordering a god around.
Right. Well, it's actually, you see, this this idea that we are not polite with the God is not there, because God is our innermost nature. So there is no politeness, so there is no distance. It is the most closest thing to us, yeah, God. So we always speak to God in a second person singular. Thou, or tvam. We never speak you. We never do him honor of being polite, like please, sir. We don't do sir to God. He is the most intimate, the closest to us. So in all languages you will find this. Only thou art. So this is an impolite way of talking to him because he is intimate. So he also the same thing. You cannot speak to him through the distant, social kind of hierarchy, outer hierarchy where man is respected. So Abhi, come here, O God. And it's to all gods, by the way. All of them have very concrete, direct word from the rishis. Tavasastaviyan, you are the mighty, the mightier of the mighty, mightier than the mighty, so to say. Tapasa yuja vijahi shatrum, and destroy or kill, literally, shatrus, the enemies. Tapasa yuja.
With your tapas.
Yes, with your tapas, in union with tapas, literally. Or he translates with thy fervor for ally.
Yeah, that's not right.
So huge he takes as ally, and I would take it as in union with tapas. So tapas is some kind of extra energy to it, as if,
Contained maybe as some kind of.
can use it, as an instrument or as a tool.
But how to contain it without having it burn you? That's the question.
Yeah, we will be a little burned, but that's okay. That's the parts which are to burn will be burned. Yeah? So, Amitraha, the destroyer of Amitras, of enemies, or those.
Unfriend.
Vritraha, the killer of Vritra, Dasyuha, the destroyer of Dasya. This is Ha is from root Han, the killer.
Hun. Well, I mean, so it's got in this. I mean, it has to have that. Again, repeating that quality that it has to have a kind of righteousness about it. It has to be killing that which is destructive in us, and not. I mean, like you said at the very beginning of this session, I suddenly thought, well, should I just leave her to have her own rage destroy herself, or should I take it and have it, be directed at me, and I can just sidestep it and apologize and just allow it to come to me, or should I just let her burn herself with it? And here he's saying, I think he's saying anyway, that when come here, Manyu, when we're slaying Vritra and Dasyu and the enemies, but not necessarily. I mean, there has to be some sort of, because they keep saying tapas, and that means, to me, that implies holding on to it, not just throwing it out or dissipating it, but somehow containing it. Or I don't like to use the word control, because that's, but in some way binding it, or internalizing it. Or maybe not internalizing, but I mean, every verse, tapaha.
Tapas is this heat, heat of consciousness, of concentrated energy. And
but I mean, it usually has to do with so there's some sacrifice involved in tapas.
Yeah, concentration of consciousness is involved, yes.
Yeah.
Once you're concentrated, the heat is growing. And this heat, which is coming from concentration of consciousness, is tapas. So there is energy spread all over time, which we gather with concentration of consciousness. We gather that into one being, and that is what Manyu is using. Yeah, I was thinking when you were talking about this example, to take heat on oneself, and even to become angry, so to say, that you are abused, for example, and that is already sharing the heat. If you are not angry, it is very, very difficult for the person to bear that rage. But
Yes.
if you are getting that anger onto yourself, that you feel that you are, you're better, and this is not fair, and you allow that energy to come really, that you start feeling it, then you take away that energy from the person. And then that person can pacify and can become a little better, And then, so here, sharing this energy would lead us to this reconciliation. Vasuni abhara tuvamna, bring to us all the wealth and treasures, while killing amitra, killing that which is as if invisible enemies in between two people, some kind of unfriendly formation or darkness. Vritra, the one who conceals, who obstructs the flow of the natural energy. And Dasyo is dualizing, always opposing, always devouring somebody's energy, always standing on this vital exchange. So if these are destroyed by Manyu, then there is a phase following of all the Vasuni and can be brought all the light reconciliation.
So using Manyu to destroy Amrita, Amitra, Vritra, and Dasyu. So those three things need to be understood very well, because then another instruction here about the positive uses of that energy. There's another instruction here.
Right. And these are Shatrus. These are the enemies from the first line. Kill those enemies. These are Amitra, the one which is without Mitra's light, without the light of the consciousness. So it becomes kind of clogged or veiled. The consciousness is veiled. Yeah, we do not know what is going on. Bewilderment of some kind. Vritra is the obstruction of the flow of the light energy. There is some hurt
of the flow.
Of the heavenly waters. Usually Vritra is the one who obstructs heavenly waters. Inspiration. The currents of heaven are not coming. And Dasyu, the dualizer. The one who cuts in, who destroys the oneness. So these are the three major forces. If we direct onto them this Manyu, then there can be that we can take camera out of the office.
Yeah, well, because then you get your wealth and your treasure. You get your wealth and treasure back. Well, that's pretty amazing, actually. It's interesting because in Yoga Sutra, it says when he says the four different useful emotions, the friendliness towards those people who are sacrificing, essentially. They don't, of course, do that in yoga, but the compassion for those who don't choose to do it or can't do it, happiness for all those that are doing righteousness, and then just simply indifference to everything else. There's the friendliness, compassion, happiness, and then indifference, and those are the only options. Here in these verses, he's saying, well, actually Manyu has a usefulness for evolution, for yoga, really, for evolution. But it's these three circumstances where you can get the wealth, and then otherwise maybe it's krodha.
Right. You see, there is an interesting thing. Why are we not angry with anti-divine forces? Yeah. Why we are angry with some innocent beings who cannot protect themselves? That shows that our application of Manyu, so to say, is wrong.
It's wrong. Mistaken, actually, because the mistake is, and the mistake is, I think, as seeing them as separate, seeing them as dual, as non-self. You see them as I'm right and they are wrong. I'm the one with the righteous perspective, and the way I see them. I'm the self, and then all of what you're doing is not. Everything about you is non-self. You're wrong. You're evil. You're dark. You're obstructing. And therefore I'm going to take you down, and that way all that's left is myself. And then I feel better for a minute, except that what you've just done is taken out yourself.
There was the one example came from literature. There was one person describing an event on the streets of India. He saw two boys fighting in the garbage for the papaya peel. I know papaya had a little left on the peel, and so one bigger boy was beating the smaller one, taking away from his papaya peel with such an anger. And he said, I couldn't imagine that this kind of anger could be in such a small being. And he was very disturbed by it, watching it. And then he saw his face changed and became very calm and happy. And when he got
the older boy
with papaya peel, it changed into smile and a very compassionate some feeling. And then he saw him crossing the street, and there was a small girl sitting there, his sister, to whom he brought this papaya peel. And he understood that he was totally wrong about this anger, that he misjudged him in his rage. So you see, everything is very relative in this world. Everything is very relative. So
I'm wondering if that's going to come out in some of these verses, something about weighing or measuring or something like that.
Well, we have already something here, quite a bit. Actually, we have deep psychologists digging deep with you, always finding interesting ideas. Wonderful.
Well, when you said we already see that, well, that idea about everything being relative, and that this Manyu is appropriate in certain situations that are, Vritra and Dasyu, and there's Amitra, yeah, that there is appropriate kshetra for this energy to come forward in its power and in its mightier than the mighty. And it is probably the mightiest thing that a human being could manifest, really, is this righteous rage, this righteous indignation.
Yeah, we are afraid to use it because there can be consequences. Not everybody can use it. If you are in this rage, righteous rage, and others are sheep around you, so you will be crucified by the power which is, But if this rage is shared with others, then it becomes power which changes the world. All these revolutions.
Then you become an army.
Right, and then people will not stand anybody on their way. They will, they will change the order.
What about terrorism? I mean, that's right.
Something else. It's not.
Well, it isn't. It's the same. I mean, they feel the same. I mean, they feel absolutely, entitled because they feel indignant. They've been wronged, and they are righting a wrong that has been done to them.
Yes, but how can you do this in this hidden, secret way? Bring bomb, and even if you blow yourself out, in a way, there's something wrong in it. It's not.
It seems wrong.
It's not open. It's not open. It's not that you face, that you come with your idea, you endanger your life. You just go secretly and blow innocent people. And that means, truly speaking, very little to me. It's not this real thing. It's not a money. It's something, it's manipulation of some kind of, with fear or, kind of, I do not know what is even maybe it is even welcomed by the system because it creates necessary tension in the society where everybody forgets the real aim, and goes back to work and consume things. Maybe even that, as it happened in New York.
There's so much here, and there's just...
It's a manipulation of some kind, terrorism. I don't find it, doesn't really, I don't understand it from the point of view of righteousness. It's not righteous. There's something
It
else.
certainly doesn't seem like it, but I quite understand their consciousness. The consciousness is exactly the same, like something unrighteous has happened to my people, or to my family, or to my friends, or whatever. And I'm so angry, I'm so outraged that I want to hurt them back. And I'm so full of rage that I'll do anything, even if it's sneaky, to for vengeance.
No, that I understand. One on one, if somebody really hurt you, and you go there and you find him, and that I understand.
That's kind of vengeance, but this is kind of random, isn't it?
To blow innocent people in the center of London doesn't make sense to me.
No, it doesn't. You're right, and it doesn't have
Doesn't have the same correspondence, you know. It's something else. It's some kind of weird religious idea that you will get your paradise because you killed yourself here and you were nobody here. Now you will become somebody there. Yeah. It's a kind of a wrong idea.
Yeah, it is. It's wrong, but it's hard for me to figure out exactly where it's wrong.
It's wrong in the application. You cannot do it to people who have nothing to do with your cause or your problem. You cannot go and kill someone.
Nobody really has anything to do with your problem. It's your dualization. You're the one who's dualizing. So, at the highest order of reality, there is nobody to be angry at, because there's no difference. It's one Atma, and one alone, and there is nothing else. And it says that in the Upanishads and everywhere. There is no second. So, the reality is that at the highest level of reality, that whenever,
Yeah, I'm not against one up. Yes, it is he who suffers all the consequences. It is he who is here, blown up, and all the rest, and being bewildered by religion and so on. It is he who plays these games with himself, yes. But still, there are Amitras and Vritras and Dasyus. It's also him in a particular, mask of an enemy or obstructor.
right, exactly, yeah. So that's where that's
It's also him.
so that the usefulness and the healing comes way before Manyu ever reaches the senses, really.
But still, these forces have to be removed. The forces of obstruction and dualization and unfriendliness, because they are rising from the inconscient influence of the divine, where the divine does not remember itself.
So that can only be done internally, right? You can't remove those things by taking some kind of action. Oh, goodness.
Sometimes it is external. Also, wars are happening all the time, and
Yeah, but it doesn't make it right. It doesn't make us. Is war tapas? I don't think so.
you know what Heraclitus says about war. The war is the father of all things.
Mm.
War is the father. And this is an interesting statement because it is in a way true, because all things are born through this removal of old dharmas and the emergence of new ones. So there will be always this application for the force. And most probably this is money, the force applied to remove something which is holding to the old formation and doesn't allow new light to come.
Most likely, yeah. That makes sense. But then, yeah, there's a lot of fine discrimination that needs to be applied here. Very, very refined discriminations, because on some level, we have a usefulness in this destructiveness, but
How
yeah,
far it can be applied to.
I have to go.
Okay, all right. So we can then. So please come to the our studies. Yeah, we will meet on Monday. Anyhow.
We'll be what? Well, yes, we'll be meeting on Monday with Rudra.
Right. We have a
More power, more force, more destruction.
no destruction, just creative removal of things.
Yes. Well, and I think maybe in its perfect form, Manyu is also that, eh?
Yes. Okay, Julia. So we finished with mantra. Vagne manasi pratiष्ठिता mano
Manome vachi
pratiष्ठितं
pratishtham
आविरावीर्मनो
आयुर्मैथि
वेदस्यानिस्थः श्रुतं मे मा प्रहसि अनेनाभिः
होरात्रं
संदधामि
संददामि
ऋतं वदिष्यामि
वक्ष्यामि
सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु उद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारम् अवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्ति.
Thank you, Vladimir. Thank you very much.
Yes. Okay, so thank you and see you then.
See you.